Ladies and gentlemen, share as we join, share as you join the show. Today we gonna be direct to the message, the reluctance of the Cameroon government to resolve the ongoing crisis in Ambazonia. Okay, since 2016, we've seen increase of casualties, increase of military presence, increase of and the refusal of the Cameroon government to go to negotiation table has only exacerbated the crisis. And we've we've seen calls from all over the world, international organizations, international parties, international bodies, countries have called on the Cameroon Paul Biya to call for a genuine negotiation process. But we've seen failure in that the government's reluctance to resolve the crisis has only caused more casualty for the last 8 years of the war. Today we see no end in sight, but we are still asking if the Cameroon government will keep spending the huge amount of money for a war they know no end in sight. And we tend to ask, what is the government of Cameroon gaining from not discussing or not going to discussing the war rather than continuing the war? On both sides, there are more. It is more expensive for the government to continue the war. It is also more expensive for them not to continue the war. Why do I say so? I say that because if you look at the Cameroon government strategy, is that they are more united in the war, in keeping Ambazonia under their canopy. Okay, but when it comes to who to lead the next after Biya, post Biya, La Republic people are not united in that. The Northeast one power, the Bamileke one power, the Bulu Beti want to remain in power. That is how it is divided. So then some people say no, an Anglophone presidency will be better if to resolve the problem. But the issue is that you cannot resolve a problem that you add a problem on a problem. Share before we continue the show so that we can talk much about this. Those people joining, make sure you share widely while we discuss this issue, and we'll bring some very pertinent points that will help guide us towards the discussion. Okay, so share. I can see those people on Facebook, the people on YouTube. Yeah. Please make sure you share. Yeah, so as we were talking, we were discussing about the Cameroon after 8 years into the conflict. The situation remains complex and unresolved. Does the Cameroon government really feel, when you invest money, you try to understand how much you have made, how much you have spent, how much you have, what is your profit margin, So for the past 8 years, if the Cameroon government assess their expenses and their gains and their profit margin, what do they think they can assess and say they have made gains? Because gains means everything, you know that you have succeeded in something, right? You have achieved something. But for the past 8 years, does the Cameroon government feel that they are winning? Because you cannot, when they say go, let's have a genuine discussion, genuine negotiation. I always say this, even these countries that have all kinds of weaponry, they have all kinds of materials, they have all kinds of world-class military weapons, they have huge military presence, but yet they still go to negotiation. So who is Cameroon that don't want to go to negotiation to settle a dispute? It's just something of thinking that, okay, you will win this thing militarily, despite all the advice, all the caution from diplomats, from the international community, that, hey, the failure of the Grand National Dialogue was an example, was a stepping stone for the Cameroon government to understand that any other discussion should be at the national stage, at the international stage. Because the way they ran the Grand National Dialogue was pre-proposed, was pre-arranged, okay? That they came with proposals already and they say, okay, don't talk about this thing, don't talk about the form of state, don't talk about this. But you cannot resolve a problem like that. That is the old form of resolving a problem, where you already know the outcome, right? It's very difficult to resolve a problem like that. And when you have that kind of mindset, then you are not ready to resolve a problem, okay? We have a crisis between two parties that stem from the root causes, a historical problem, okay? And anyone that say they don't understand the problem, you have to go back in 1961. We are seeing what 11th February is coming, and people are talking about the 11th of February. But if you go back to history, the root causes of the conflict today is 11th of February. The two countries that came together to form a solid federal system that can work for both countries, IJO dismantled it. Biya just continued to eliminate any trace of Southern Cameroon, and he himself mentioned that. So if you think that you can wipe out a people's identity, you can wipe out a people's presence, I don't think it is in this era, right? You cannot just go ahead and wipe out people's identity without their knowledge, or without having a replacement. But that is what we're talking about, okay? I want you to listen to this, then we'll come back to this after this report.
Well, Mr. Luis, I queue up with that ideology that the Prime Minister is not being respected. Because if we go down memory lane, what happened during the Major National Dialogue of 2019, when the Prime Minister came out with, an agenda? He said every topic is supposed to be discussed during this Major National Dialogue. But we had the Minat who came out publicly and said that it's a taboo, it's forbidden for the form of the state to be spoken during this Major National Dialogue. So you see that the powers and the respect of our Prime Minister is not re-exercised. So I queue up with that. Now we're talking about canvassing votes for an Anglophone president. it's not a bad idea, but we need to understand that the Anglophone problem is not a socio-political problem, as many people have termed it to be. I tell you, it's a historical problem, because if we must try, to resolve this problem, you cannot say you want to solve a problem by cutting the branches and you're forgetting the roots. If you must kill a productive tree, you must start by digging to the roots, and that is why we're here today, to go back to history. It is a historical problem that didn't start in 2016, as so many people may say. It is a historical problem that dated since before we had the reunification. We saw what happened when John Gufoncha had to lure the English-speaking Cameroonians into a marriage with a marriage certificate, which I call, the Constitution of 1961. That Constitution of the federal state, the two-state federation. We had the West and the East. That is the problem. It is a historical problem, and we must go back through memory lane to solve a problem, because all what we are having, people will talk, people will bring out like what happened during the major national dialogue, which I term a monologue. Because you cannot organize something telling the world that it is a dialogue, but you don't accept the second party to air out his mind. So you see, all of the recommendations of the major national dialogue is a failure, because we still have these two restive areas being attacked, and we're still having wars. So we must go back to our roots. We need to teach people what they don't know, so that they will understand the traceability and all what we are facing today. So we need to go back. And a lot of people will say President Biya inherited of a country that was already at war. Mr. Big Ben, President Biya came into power in 1962. He worked with the Aijo government. He was with Aijo, and he was the secret keeper of the presidency. So everything that went wrong, President Biya is a part of it. Because when you talk to most of these, region barons, they will tell you President Biya just inherited from a country that was already at war. No, if you go back memory, we are working with our third constitution, Mr. Big Ben. The 1960 constitution, when the French Cameroon had to have their independence from the French. 1961, when we had that marriage. 1972, amended by Aijo twice. Biya amended his own. In 1984, when he became president, he changed everything, amended Article 1, 5, and 7. So this is a historical problem that...
I think there are some points there that she raised, especially when it comes to the root causes of the problem. The Southern Cameroon, Ambazonia, and French Cameroon relationship stems back at the independence. Okay, we all know that the French Cameroon got their independence on the 1st of January 1960. Then the next year, the United Nations voted for our independence, okay, and we had our independence on the 1st of October 1961. So that was the issue where they were asking us to either join Nigeria or to join the French Cameroon. But now the situation is that when Aijo in 1972, after us having that federal system, cancel the federal system and said, oh, we have to go back to a one-party system or one, then the question is, why do you have to perform a referendum at that time when they said the form of the state should not be changed? Okay, and when you call for dialogue and negotiation and all this, you want people to bring recommendations, you want people to bring in ideas, you want people to bring in new ways on how to put the situation right. But you cannot have a negotiation process where it's limited. Discussions are limited. All the themes, the topics are limited. You say, oh, don't talk about this. Talk about this, but don't talk about this topic. That's not what negotiation entails. Okay, and that's why till today we still saw that the Grand National Dialogue failed. Okay, keep listening.
to go back to our problematics. What went wrong? Who did what? And how are we going to amend this? Because saying that we are canvassing votes for an Anglophone president, who will be that Anglophone president? Who is ready to take that? I heard one panelist talk about the charisma of Major Mfunje from the SDF. We all know what happened in 1992. We all know what happened. Today, we are still walking up and down. The regime has been there 60 years of failure. Nothing has been done. We have 2 restive zones. Nobody is doing anything. Everybody is using this as a source of avarice. That is why I will keep telling people, Mr. Big Ben, this is a historical problem. And if we must canvass votes for an Anglophone president, we must first of all solve what went wrong. But John Guffoncha lured us into a marriage. 1961 Constitution. It was changed 1972, and Biya came and amended all this constitution, and today the Anglophones are considered as subordinate. Meanwhile, when we came to this marriage in 1962, we came as 2 equal states. We came as 2 equal states with equal rights. A lot of people have used this and called it a socio-political problem. Mr. Big Ben, it is not a social problem, because the recommendations of the major national dialogue is a failure. It is a political problem.
The recommendations of the major national dialogue, which was masterminded by the Prime Minister, Chief Dr. Joseph John Gutse, we cannot say it's a failure because some of the recommendations are already being put in place. And
Ben, let me answer you, please.
Yeah, the question is quite direct. Is there a possibility of an Anglophone problem? We're looking at solutions to resolve the crisis.
We cannot look for solutions when we don't know the
cause. What we're looking at is the possibility of having an Anglophone president. Can an Anglophone president be able to resolve that crisis?
Let me answer you.
Maybe their own approach.
She has some very pertinent points there. There are some truths that people don't want to listen to. Okay, people want to listen to what they like to listen to. She's just been honest. Okay, you cannot have they say when they put an Anglophone president, things are gonna go. Then the crisis is gonna be resolved. The problem is not an Anglophone president. It's not an Anglophone president. That's not the solution of the crisis. The crisis has nothing to do with an Anglophone presidency. The Prime Minister is there. What is he doing there? The Prime Minister has no portfolio. Okay, why do you think that they change the position of the Vice President to the Prime Minister, who is number 5 after the President now? There is no one Anglophone or Southern Cameroonian who is next to Paul Biya. The next person who is an Anglophone is a Prime Minister. And what was the portfolio of the Prime Minister? The portfolio of the Prime Minister is a number 5th in command. It means that even if Paul Biya died today, the Prime Minister cannot take over. Why? Because they don't want an Anglophone to be the president. As simple as that. Why should you annul the position of Prime Minister, Vice President, and replace it with the position of the Prime Minister, who is 5th in command? Then you have the President of the Senate, the President of the Speaker of the National Assembly, the President of the Constitutional Council, then the first Vice President of the Senate, and so just like that. Before Prime Minister can even. So you see how the politics plays. But she's just saying something very pertinent there. Okay, you cannot solve a problem by a half-baked solution. You cannot solve a problem like that. The Anglophone problem is a historical problem. It needs to go back to the roots. Okay? You cannot see people who came in as equal partners. The United Nations tell you that, okay, these people we are giving these people option. that they can choose to join Nigeria or they can choose to join you. Now, okay, they choose to join you as equal countries that come together. They never said, let's join you people and you be the one to be president forever. That's not what the arrangement was. So you now understand what we're talking about.
Mr. Big Ben, we cannot bring a solution without getting the cause of the problem. When I started talking, I told you of the roots that needs to be done. When you said that the major national dialogue and some of its recommendations are a success, Mr. Big Ben, what's happening in Governmental? Recently people died. People were killed. If the recommendations of the major national dialogue was effective, Mr. Big Ben, we won't have this problem entering the 7th year. Now, the possibility of having an Anglophone problem, I said, is not to be disregarded. But the problem is, who is that figure who will have that charisma of the Ninjan Fundi in his early years when he was still very strong? Who has that charisma? People will talk about, Sisi Kwayok Tabe and others. For me, I do not believe so much in that. I believe of a president who has a national interest. Because when you talk, Mr. Big Ben, let me land. When you talk of an Anglophone president, what do you mean? You speak in English? We have a lot of French-speaking Cameroonians who have adopted the Anglo-Saxon education and they call themselves Anglophones. Who is an Anglophone? I believe in a president who has national interests, who loves Cameroonians and wants Cameroon to change. Because if you get a figure like an Anglophone president and he doesn't love Cameroon, Cameroon will still be in the trouble we are having.
All right, we got you, Nadia.
So we are talking about the recommendation of the Grand National Dialogue that failed, right? Why did the Grand National Dialogue fail? It failed because the Cameroon government brought pre-prepared arrangements. Pre-prepared, they already had plans of whatever they will come to talk about. They had plans with the CPDM party elites who are going to make speeches. Anybody who going to do... That is not a Grand National Dialogue. Grand National Dialogue that concerns a people, but you don't allow them to be part of what their future has to be. Come on, they are still doing the same thing that happened in Fumban. They did the same thing in the Grand National Dialogue. The same thing, the recommendations of the AAC1, All Anglophone Conference, All Anglophone Conference 1, All Anglophone Conference 2, none of this recommendation has been looked up to. The people of Southern Cameroon had a series of conferences, series of meetings, tried to see how they can tell Paul Biya and his regime to reconsider the federal system back then. They were begging for federation before 2016. Nobody listened to them. So when you have this kind of hard-hitting government of Paul Biya, who thinks that what he's doing is right, but the main issue that brought in the the Swiss-led negotiation and the Canada negotiation was a failure of the Grand National Dialogue, of course. So we're not even talking about the Grand National Dialogue anymore. We are talking about, okay, why did the Swiss negotiation fail? Why did the Canada negotiation fail? Both failed because the Cameroon government withdrew from the talks. Okay? And what does that tell you? It means that the Cameroon government is not ready to talk. It's not ready to resolve the problem. Right? They're not ready. Let's listen to this and then they will come back to this.
The dialogue was a part of the talks, and we have seen that the dialogue failed woefully because up to now people are being killed on a daily basis. The conflict has worsened. People have no reason to vote for him. You asked about voting for Paul Biya. I don't see why Anglophones will be voting for President Paul Biya. And why would you give your vote to someone who completely ignored your worries? As Anglophone Cameroonians have been suffering for decades, for so many years. Why would anyone in the Anglophone regions that Biya has not visited vote for him? He spends more time in Geneva and Yaoundé than in any part of Cameroon, and you only see him in the far north region of Cameroon when the elections are coming. I know he's probably, if he's going to stand, we are not sure because he's not officially said he wants to be candidate, but you can only see him visit another part of Cameroon when he's going for campaigns, and he will not be up to 2 cities. So let's not forget the broader picture here. Roads in despair in Cameroon. We saw the number of road accidents in the country, crumbling healthcare system, and one of the panelists is an expert in the medical sector. You can compare the situation out of Cameroon and in Cameroon. It's day and night. Skyrocketing unemployment in the country. And conflict is not just in the northwest and the southwest region. We've got a lot happening across Cameroon. High rate unemployment and tribalism. It's just so much going on. So the question shouldn't be even whether Biya should run. It should be, why has he not stepped down? Why has he not stepped down?
I think,
and I wanted to just say something. In all fairness, it's not just President Paul Biya who has not visited the region. Let's also talk about the opposition leaders who want to step into his shoes. Has Cabral Libi ever visited the Anglophone regions? No.
There
Has
is a
Kamto
question
ever
on that.
been there? No.
Mimi, there is a question about the opposition and the role they have played. Since you are on that, I am going to press on that question, that the political opposition and the civil society groups and even the church have remained silent and paid lip service to the resolution of the crisis or the release of the prisoners and leaders of the southern Cameroons. Recently, I have seen a spate of them deploring the way late Honorable Ayapo.
We had a little tidbit of that issue of how people want change, but they don't understand that, it's very difficult when you have a government that doesn't care. You understand? I saw the other time, for the past 8 years, Biya has not visited one of the war regions. One. For the past 8 years of the war, Biya has not visited anything. Okay? He only sends the governors, his SDOs to go and visit and bring him the report. Okay? But there are things that when you do, people know that, hey, this person has concern, okay, but that's not the person that you know. Mimi Mefo just mentioned a plethora of things that are going on in that country, Cameroon. It's it's only when you have your child going to school and you're asking the child's report card, you can tell if that child succeeded or if that child made it, right? From the child's report card. If you give me Biya's report card today, after 42 years of power, he has been failing his classes every single year. Every single year, because Biya doesn't even know what he's doing. He doesn't even know what's going on in his government anymore. He's not even in charge of his government anymore. Okay? And that is what is going on. All what they know now is just to add prices of goods, add prices of taxes, add things. That's all they do to survive. If not, the government cannot survive because they're just adding prices of goods and services so that they can pay bills. That's all what the government is doing. That's all what they're doing. So it's a sad tale, but that is the reality that we have on the ground, and we hope that God will touch some of the government officials to see that enough of the killings, enough of this, so that they can go to negotiation table, because no crisis ends except when the warring factions go to negotiation table. No amount of military crackdown, no amount of whatever you want can stop a war without it going for negotiation, okay, to address those grievances, the human rights abuses, the different issues of diplomatic efforts. Try to see how to facilitate a peaceful resolution to the crisis. With that, we might see some changes and peaceful resolution to the crisis. If not, they will keep the war will continue like any other war, with casualties on both sides and no end in sight. Thank you for listening, and God bless you. God bless the people of Southern Cameroon, Ambazonia.